Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Michael Fullan.
Welcome to Team Martin. I get to say that first, Paul. I'm sorry. Once in a while, you get an evening like this where you get to bask in some glory. And you begin to think, where did it come from? What caused it? What enabled it? And so I'd like to focus my remarks on 7 lessons I've learned about leadership, working with many of the people in this room, that really resulted in this evening, which is not my accomplishment, but our accomplishment. So I want to start with Rob Pritchard. Rob was president of the University of Toronto in the late, when we began to look at reforming education. And I want to pinpoint each of these 7 lessons. And his forte was to realize, through empathy, the multiple realities of people who didn't agree with each other, and then to take them to a higher level and solve the problem where everyone felt that they had won. So if you think of this as a problem, higher education, 2 institutions, University of Toronto, OISE, coming together to be integrated. The government, 3 parties, half of whom didn't necessarily want to be in the same room, and that this lesson of that the goal of change is to take diverse opinions, even conflictful opinions, and find common ground. The lesson here can be stated succinctly. It was stated by one of the CEOs of a company who was highly successful. When he retired, they asked him, "What's the most important thing you've learned about leadership?" And he said this: "The most important thing is to be right at the end of the meeting, not at the beginning of the meeting." That is a fabulous metaphor for the process. Being right at the beginning of the meeting is being right in your own mind. Being right at the end of the meeting is you process it with the group, you've arrived at a solution, you've combined a process, you've combined good ideas, and you end up with commitment to implement. The second lesson I want to take to is Premier Dalton McGuinty, sitting over here on my right. And I had the privilege of working with him for 10 years. And the most significant thing I remember, in a sense, it's what I don't remember. I don't remember us spending very much time on deciding what to do. I remember spending a lot of time on doing it. And there's the lesson, that you can get things, the directional things right, and we did. And we did it simply as was said, smallest number of ideas, work on them. And we spend about 10% of the time deciding what to do and 90% of the time doing it. And so that this compass of action, this accomplishment, this paying attention to the results, was a fabulous opportunity for me to work alongside someone, doing it day after day, accomplishing things that we've never been able to accomplish in other big, large jurisdictions. And I'm also very proud to say that last week in The Economist, for the first time ever, The Economist, who champions charter schools, doesn't really particularly have faith in public schools, said, when they were criticizing the French education system in France, said that we acknowledge that the Canadian province of Ontario, is the way they expressed it, has been a global improvement example that others should emulate. So that is the recognition, I think, of what is being accomplished. And we will carry on this work with the minister, with the premier. These pesky labor problems will be solved by September, I'm told. We're going to really then, because we have been, as everybody, a lot of people know, admired around the world for what we've been able to accomplish on a large scale, and that this is something not to be imitated, but to be learned from. And so we're able to be part of that worldwide accomplishment. So that's the second lesson. Spend most of your time doing things, not planning on doing them. The third lesson of leadership is to surround yourself with good people, lots of talent. That's the best way to look good. And I did this at the Faculty of Education when we, 1988 to 96, The integration of OISE and the faculty and the university, again, surrounding us with good people. And then currently, and I'm my Global Director of Capacity Building, that's got to be a fancy title. Global Director of Capacity Building, Joanne Quinn, is here. And again, it's the talented people that you build around you that makes the most important difference. In fact, the goal of most leadership should be to develop talent, to develop collaboration, and to make yourself dispensable as a leader, because nobody lasts forever. And if you can leave a legacy of collaboration, of capacity, of people who can carry on even better than you, it's a great accomplishment. So that's the third one, surround yourself with team. The fourth one is to love French Canada. Yeah, and we've done this in two ways. One already and one just beginning in terms of my personal involvement. In Ontario, we have, people know the overall success, high school graduation, going from 68% to 84% graduation rate in less than a 10-year period. But there are 12 Francophone boards in Ontario, and they have done much better. Part of the success story, but they've gone from 68% to 93% graduation, high schools. Fantastic performance. And I'm proud as a Canadian, especially proud, Claude Sincere, you saw on in the video, to team up now with Quebec. Similarly, about 70 school districts. And Quebec and Ontario, in a fundamental way, have partnered. But in the educational way, they partnered even in more detail to begin to, and with the 70 or so directors of education, with the support of the Samuel Foundation, to start in the last 6 months and for the next 6 years, a reform of education that's going to even do better in Quebec. Lots of good results there already, but at the secondary level, even better. And I'm really, really proud, excited as a Canadian to be part of that development in the next few years. So that's the fourth one. The fifth one is about family, and I want to move to table 37 there with my family. All 5 of my children are there: Chris, Maureen, Josh, Bailey, Connor. But especially, and here I'll give you a math problem. At that table, if you take 8 people whose average age is 40, here's the math question. How do you convert an average age of 40 into an average age of 50? And the answer is directly, add 2 people that are 90 years of age. And that's my mother-in-law and father-in-law, Ed Marshall and Molly Marshall, whose combined ages is 181. These 2 people, who I hope you will meet in the course of the evening, they were role models before the term was invented. Robert Merton invented the term role model in 1945. They were well ahead of their times. So they have another change leadership factor, have been able to pull together and over many years and be able to solve this. Ed is a fantastic tamer of the environment, I'm going to say. He's leveled ground, cut trees. Unfortunately, I think, for my wife's sake, I never had to do such handiwork because Ed was always there doing it. So he's trained me into lack of capacity because he always did the good work. But now, I think he's slowing down because last month, up to this time, he's been using mainly hammers and nails and chainsaws to do all this work. Last month, he bought a brand new all-terrain vehicle at 91 years of age. So that's got to be slowing down. And Molly and Ed have a great relationship, as I said, role models, and basically he tames the environment and she tames him. It's kind of there must be a country western song in there somewhere, but that's what they do. But mainly this lesson I want to center on my wife Wendy, who's been mentioned, and here's the change lesson. Everybody should have someone to watch over them. And I have that with Wendy. We have that with our 2 boys living at home. Someone who's always on duty. But to watch over someone requires a great skill of change, because you have to navigate between being permissive and pushy. That is a difficult change skill. How do you be pushy in terms of the values, expectations of performance, and how do you also integrate things that can be done? And so Wendy has this great capacity, and I'm sure she struggles with it because she's basically fairly opinionated, struggles with it on the pushy side, but here's the skill, and I want you to remember these two words for leadership. You have to be insistent, but not impositional. Insistent about the values, insistent about the qualities, but not impositional, not micromanaging about whether someone follows it. A fabulous change lesson. So that's number 5. Number 6, the learning partnership. It's so great to be honored here by this group. I knew the establishment of it 21 years ago, where at the beginning it didn't look like a short-term project. It didn't look like it was going to be have much longevity. It did a lot of symbolic things, but you heard earlier from Akila that right now the Learning Partnership and the board and all of the board members who I've become get to know, especially partly in Banff, where, as was mentioned, the Learning Partnership not only co-chaired but co-led the International Summit on the Teaching Profession in March. Fantastic work. The first summit of the 6 that have been held each March, where business and community were present there in a strong way and developing this work together. So the Learning Partnership now, and I've been part of it with the outstanding educational principals across the country, being very much part of reviewing that each year and being part of talking about that skill, the 21st century learning skills, the knowledge mobilization. This is an entity now that does things, going back to the doing part. It does things that are substantial, it does things that are pan-Canadian, and it does them with quality and depth. And so this, today, 2015, is a particularly great time to be part of TLP. It's a particularly important time to take, because of the issues involved, to be able to take business, community, and educational systems and put them together across Canada, be a model for the world, and accomplish things that have never been accomplished before. We have accomplished a lot in Canada, but there's more to be done. And as I like to say about our work, and I've said this to the minister, we are famous for what we've done up to this point. We need to be famous for what we're going to do in the next phase, and TLP represents that possibility. So that's the 6th. The 7th one comes back to Team Martin, and I'm incredibly honored to be associated with Paul Martin and the work that he's done with the Aboriginal Institute, and to acknowledge, until recently, I would say in the last 2 years, and it's hard to fathom, that not much attention has been paid to developing the life chances of Aboriginal students, First Nations, Métis, Inuit, as we refer to that in Ontario. But this work now is getting to be almost irresistible. It needs to be gone over the top. There are 78,000 Aboriginal students in Ontario, 14,000 on reserves and others in the school system. We have begun to make progress. That the work that Paul and the Institute and others have done in the 2 schools on reserve, the results that Julie O'Sullivan and others have documented, it shows that it's the same principles of change we've always known about. You have to find the solution in the community that has the problem, within that community. You have to develop and enable people to find their identity, their culture, their future from their own vantage point. Then you have to use good pedagogy. And then you also have to team up and have the partnership. And I know that Paul Martin stands for having the kind of partnership that will enable a given group to find its own solution, to facilitate that, and to go further. In Ontario, and it's, again, only in the last 2 years, I feel that we've elevated the priority to its present status. We have made progress using these same principles and strategies. In the last 2 years, the gap is beginning to close between low-performing and higher-performing in the First Nations, Métis, Inuit community. And what we have to do, and I hope tonight symbolizes this, not only symbolizes it, but catalyzes it, that if we were to step up this action with what we already know, if we were to team up in partnership with these communities, we could take this over the top in the next 3 years. And that's why I'm very proud to accept this tonight with Paul Martin. Thank you very much.